everyone, and happy Monday. Welcome back to our chapter book reading of Wonder. If you remember from last week, we are on Justin's point of view. He is Via's boyfriend. So we're going to continue because we still have a lot of chapters to get through, and school's done in 4 weeks. So we're going to get started. The next chapter is called Our Town. And there goes my dog. Lady. Oh, wait, we'll give her a second. Okay, we're good. Okay, Our Town. We're doing the play Our Town for the spring show this year. Olivia dares me to try out for the lead role, the stage manager, and somehow I get it. Total fluke. Never got any lead roles in anything before. I tell Olivia she brings me good luck. Unfortunately, she doesn't get the female lead, Emily Gibbs. The pink-haired girl named Miranda gets it. Olivia gets a bit part and is also the Emily understudy. I'm actually more disappointed than Olivia is. She almost seemed relieved. I don't love people staring at me, she says, which is sort of strange coming from such a pretty girl. A part of me thinks maybe she blew her audition on purpose. Maybe. The spring show is at the end of April. It's mid-March now, so that's less than 6 weeks to memorize my part, plus rehearsal time, plus practicing with my band, plus finals, plus spending time with Olivia. It's going to be a rough 6 weeks, that's for sure. Mr. Davenport, the drama teacher, is already manic about the whole thing. Will drive us crazy by the time it's over, no doubt. I heard through the grapevine that he'd been planning on doing The Elephant Man, but changed it to Our Town at the last minute, and that change took a week off our rehearsal schedule. Not looking forward to the craziness of next month or after. Next chapter, Ladybug. Olivia and I are sitting on her front stoop. She's helping me with my lines. It's a warm March evening, almost like summer. The sky is still bright blue, but the sun is low and the sidewalks are streaked with long shadows. I'm reciting. Yes, the sun's come up over 1,000 times. Summers and winters have cracked the mountains a little bit more, and the rains have brought down some of the dirt. Some babies that weren't even born have begun talking regular sentences already, and a number of people who thought they were right young and spry have noticed that they can't bound up a flight of stairs like they used to, without their heart fluttering a little. I shake my head. I can't remember the rest of my lines. All that can happen in 1,000 days, Olivia promised me, reading from the script. Right. I think I said, shaking my head. I sighed. I'm wiped, Olivia. How in the world am I going to remember all of these lines? You will, she answers confidently. She reaches out and cups her hands over a ladybug that appears out of nowhere. See? A good luck sign, she says, slowly lifting her top a hand to reveal the ladybug walking on the palm of her other hand. Good luck, or just the hot weather, I joke. Of course good luck, she answers, watching the ladybug crawl up her wrist. There should be a thing about making a wish on a ladybug. Augie and I used to do that with fireflies when we were little. She cups her hand over the ladybug again. Come on, make a wish. Close your eyes. I don't fully close my eyes. A long second passes, and then I open them. Did you make a wish? She asked. Yep. She smiles, uncups her hand in the ladybug, and as if on cue, it spreads its wings and flies away. Don't you want to know what I wished for? I asked, giving her a kiss. No, she answers shyly, looking up at the sky, which at this very moment is the exact color of her eyes. I made a wish too, she said mysteriously, but she has so many things she could wish for. I have no idea what she's thinking. Next chapter. Again, remember we are still on the boyfriend's point of view, Justin, okay? The bus stop. Olivia's mom, Augie, Jack, and Daisy come down the stoop just as I'm saying goodbye to Olivia. Slightly awkward since we are in the middle of a nice kiss. Hey guys, says the mom, pretending not to see anything, but the two boys were giggling. Hi, Miss Pullman. Please call me Isabel, Justin, she says again. It's like the third time she's told me this, so I really need to start calling her that. I'm heading home, I say, as if to explain it. Oh, are you heading to the subway? She says, following the dog with a newspaper. Can you walk Jack to the bus stop? No problem, I said. That okay with you, Jack? The mom asks him. He shrugs. Justin, can you stay with him till the bus arrives? Of course, I said. We all say our goodbyes. Olivia winks at me. You don't have to stay with me, says Jack as we're walking to the block. I take the bus by myself all the time. Augie's mom is way overprotective. He's got a low, gravely voice, like a little tough kid. He kind of looks like one of those little rascal kids in old black and white movies, like he should be wearing a newsboy cap and knickers. We get to the bus stop, and the schedule says that the bus will be there in 8 minutes. I'll wait with you, I told him. Up to you, he shrugs. Can I borrow $1? I want some gum. I fish $1 out of my pocket and watch him cross the street to the grocery store on the corner. He seems too small to be walking around by himself somehow. Then I think how I was when I was that young, when I was taking the subway by myself. Way too young. I'm going to be an overprotective dad someday. I just know it. My kids are going to know that I care. I'm waiting there a minute or two when I notice 3 kids walking up from the block from the other direction. They walk right past the grocery store, but one of them looks inside and nudges the other 2, and they all back up and look inside. I can tell they're up to no good. All elbowing each other and laughing. One of them is Jack's height, but the other 2 boys look much bigger, more like teenagers. They hide behind the fruit stand in front of the store, and when Jack walks out, they trail behind him, making loud throw-up noises. Jack casually turns around at the corner to see who they are, and they run away, high-fiving each other and laughing. Such jerks. Jack crosses the street like nothing happened and stands next to me at the bus stop, blowing a bubble. Friends of yours? I finally asked. Ha, he says. He's trying to smile, but I can see he's upset. Some jerks from my school, he says. A kid named Julian and his 2 gorillas, Henry and Miles. Do they bother you a lot like that? No, they've never done that before. They'd never do that in school, or they'd get kicked out. Julian doesn't even live around here, so I guess it was just bad luck running into him. Oh, okay, I nod. It's not a big deal, he assures me. We both automatically look down Amesforth Avenue to see if the bus is coming. We're sort of in a war, he says after a minute, as if that explains everything. Then he pulls out this crumpled piece of loose leaf paper from his jean pocket and gives it to me. I unfold it. It's a list of names in 3 columns. He's turned the whole grade against me, says Jack. Not the whole grade, I point out, looking down at the list. He leaves me my notes in my locker that says stuff like, everybody hates you. Well, you should tell your teacher about that. Jack looks at me like I'm an idiot and shakes his head. Anyway, you have all these neutrals, I say, pointing to the list. If you get them on your side, things will even up a bit. Yeah, well, that's not really going to happen, he said sarcastically. Why not? He shoots me another look like I am absolutely the stupidest person he's ever talked to in the world. What? I said. He shakes his head like I'm hopeless. Let's just say, he says, I'm friends with someone who isn't exactly the most popular kid in school. Then it hits me. What's he's not coming out and saying? August. This is all about being friends with August. And he doesn't want to tell me because I'm the sister's boyfriend. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. We see the bus coming down Amesforth Avenue. Well, just hang in there, I tell him, handing back the paper. Middle school is as bad as it gets, and then it gets better. Everything will work out. He shrugs and shoves the list back into his pocket. We wave bye when he gets on the bus, and I watch it pull away. When I get to the subway station 2 blocks away, I see the same 3 kids hanging out in front of the bagel place next door. They're still laughing and yucking each other like they're some kind of gang. Little rich boys in expensive skinny jeans acting tough. Don't know what possesses me, but I take off my glasses, put them in my pocket, and tuck my fiddle case under my arm so my pointy side is facing up. I walk over to them, my face scrunched up, mean looking. They look at me, laughs dying on their lips when they see me, ice cream cones at odd angles. Yo, listen up. Don't mess with Jack, I say really slowly, gritting my teeth, my voice all Clint Eastwood tough guy. Mess with him again, and you will be very, very sorry. And then I tap my fiddle case for effect. Got it? They nod in unison, ice cream dripping down onto their hands. Good. I nod mysteriously, then sprint down the subway 2 steps at a time. That was funny. We're going to do one more chapter. It's called Rehearsal. The play is taking up most of my time as we get closer to opening night. Lots of lines to remember. Long monologues where it's just me talking. Olivia had this great idea, though, and it's helping. I have a fiddle with me on stage and play it a bit while I'm talking. It's not written that way, but Mr. Davenport thinks it adds an extra folksy element to have the stage manager plucking on a fiddle. And for me, it's so great because whenever I need a second to remember my line, I just start playing a little soldier's joy on my fiddle and it buys me some more time. I've gotten to know the kids in the show a lot better, especially the pink-haired girl who plays Emily. Turns out she's not nearly as stuck up as I thought she would be, given the crowd she hangs out with. Her boyfriend's this built jock who's a big deal on the varsity sports circuit at school. It's a whole world that I have nothing to do with, so I'm kind of surprised that this Miranda girl turns out to be kind of nice. One day we're sitting on the floor backstage waiting for the tech guys to fix the main spotlight. So, how long have you and Olivia been dating? She asked out of the blue. About 4 months now, I say. Have you met her brother? She asked casually. It's so unexpected that I can't hide my surprise. You know, Olivia's brother? I ask. V didn't tell you? We used to be good friends. I've known Augie since he was a baby. Oh yeah, I think I knew that, I answer. I don't want to let on that Olivia had not told me any of this. I don't want to let on how surprised I am that she called her Via. Nobody but Olivia's family calls her Via. And there's this pink-haired girl who I thought was a stranger calling her Via. Miranda laughs, shakes her head, but she doesn't say anything. There's an awkward silence, and then she starts fishing through her bag and pulls out her wallet. She rifles through a couple of pictures and then hands one to me. It's of a little boy in a park on a sunny day. He's wearing shorts and a t-shirt and an astronaut helmet that covers his entire head. It was like 100 degrees that day, she says, smiling at the picture. But he wouldn't take that helmet off for anything. He wore it for like 2 years straight. In the winter, in the summer, at the beach. It was crazy. Yeah, I've seen pictures in Olivia's house. I'm the one who gave him that helmet, she says. She sounds kind of proud of that. She takes the picture and carefully inserts it back into her wallet. Cool, I answered. So you're okay with it? She says, staring at me. I look at her blankly. Okay with what? She raises her eyebrows, like she doesn't believe me. You know what I'm talking about, she says, and takes a long drink from her water bottle. Let's face it, she continues, the universe was not kind to Augie Pullman. And that is where we're going to end it for the day. Make sure you go on and answer the question, and we'll do more tomorrow. Bye, guys.